Of course it's gonna be this week. Of course it will be. I swear I must have manifested this somehow. You know, this is gonna be really funny if it's not actually on Thursday. But if it's not actually on Thursday, I'm gonna scream a little bit. Apparently, the Switch 2 is set to be released this week, so I have set aside all my plans this week to mentally brace myself for the sheer amount of editing I'm about to do. Much like an egg, I will be scrambling, I'm sure. Before the Switch 2 is revealed, and before any hints of the game are shown officially, I want to go ahead and drop my predictions for its launch window games. Please keep in mind that a launch window is different from a launch day. A launch window is typically described as the first few months of a console's lifetime. That's a little vague though, so maybe we'll just say that these predictions are for the first quarter of the Switch 2. I have heard some of the leaks for the Switch 2 titles, and while I did take some of that into consideration, I am also very aware that there's just a lot of misinformation going around. So, all game leaks, I just kind of take that with a grain of salt. I tried to make predictions based off of what I know versus what I've heard as a rumor. My predictions for this video are, additionally, only for first-party games, as I find it a little bit harder to predict third-party titles coming to a Nintendo console. Let's do this! As a Divine Dragon, I have contemplated for many long hours and have determined that the Switch 2 launch window is definitely and totally going to include the following. A 3D Mario. A Mario game in general is just very obvious. This game will be the sequel to Mario Odyssey that we've all been waiting for. I don't think it'll be called Odyssey 2, but I think it will be a spiritual successor of sorts. I kinda jokingly told someone like, wow, I can't wait for Mario Iliad. Then I got to thinking, and that name idea had some weird implications. But wait, in the Iliad, they're fighting because Helen of Troy got kidnapped. Wait a second. Peach gets kidnapped all the time. Am I onto something here? Jokes aside, I think it's something that, while it will be structured similar to Odyssey, it'll be not a direct sequel, but it will take a lot of cues from it. There will obviously be a gimmick of some kind. That's how these games work. What will the gimmick be? Well, my Divine Dragon powers aren't that sharpened yet, but I think it'd be cool if we could utilize more of the power-ups like we would from like a 2D Mario game, but in a 3D setting, kind of like Mario 3D World. Speaking of Super Mario 3D World, some people have been saying the next Mario will be a 2D Mario instead of a 3D one, but it's been long enough since our last 3D Mario that I think the launch title will be 3D, and I think a 2D Mario will come along in year 2 or maybe even 3. I also predict that Metroid Prime 4 will see a dual release on Switch and Switch 2. I think it's fairly safe to assume that this will be a launch title. Metroid Primes have traditionally not sold amazing, but there's been something of a boost in interest in the series, so maybe Nintendo is hoping that it being a launch title will increase its sales. I think if they release this game and a multiplayer title pretty early in the Switch 2, it'll give a nice offering of a first-party single-player experience, and then also a more family fun kind of title with whatever multiplayer they pick, which we all probably know what that is, and we'll talk about that next. I was hesitant after looking at sales numbers to consider Metroid Prime 4 as a decent launch window candidate, but it's definitely possible. I'm actually surprised it was still being called a Switch 1 title in the last Direct. I thought it was going to be moved entirely to Switch 2. We'll just have to see, but I bet it's a launch title. I hope it sells well. I just started the first game for the very first time ever, and I think it's amazing. Moving on. Mario Kart 9 is almost guaranteed to be a launch title. This game will be much like the very beloved Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, even with a few returning characters like the Inklings and Link. we'll probably see even more characters from other IPs. At least that's what I'm hoping. In particular, for new drivers, I think we will get Olimar from the Pikmin series, Kirby from the Kirby series, and I think we're gonna get Paper Mario. I just got this feeling. We already have multiple versions of Mario and Mario Kart. I think they're gonna give us Paper Mario too. I think we'll also see a fair amount of new tracks, but also a lot of returning favorites. Maybe some that didn't make it into Mario Kart 8, and maybe a few that originate from Mario Kart 8. I was gonna predict a secondary title for it, but I honestly think they're just gonna call it Mario Kart 9 and be done with it. I think either this game will drop on day 1 of Switch 2 being released, or the aforementioned 3D Mario will. And then whichever doesn't drop first will come along a few months later as we start to get bored of the other game. I've noticed that there's a Zelda game that tends to come out year 1 of every single console since basically the Wii, so I think it's fair to say that a Zelda will probably be somewhere in the launch title window as well. Given that Echoes of Wisdom just released, I think it won't be a 2D Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom is also relatively fresh, so I predict that while it will be a 3D Zelda, it will be a port of an older game. Specifically, I think it'll be Wind Waker HD, and that game will come out at the end of the launch window. I've noticed with a lot of console releases, sometimes they feel the need to kind of put in not necessarily a port, but they'll kind of have a version of an older game to kind of pad out their lineup a bit. And I think that's why they'll pick Wind Waker. They know it's high in demand. It's a 3D Zelda, but they don't have to make a new game. So it's not going to cost as much. It's not going to use as many resources. And it just feels like a good idea. I mean, people want this. People have been wanting this for ages. I've been wanting this for ages. So I think it'll be Wind Waker HD. But because I just said that, it'll probably be Twilight Princess HD, knowing my luck. I think those 4 games will for sure be launch window games. And I'm keeping the first party prediction to those 4 because looking back at the launch year games for the Switch, we had Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and ARMS for first party titles. Now, I do think we'll get more games than that in 2025, just a little bit later on down the line. And these 3 in particular are ones that I can see happening. Extra predictions for 2025. Splatoon 4 will launch around the time of the Switch 2's first or second anniversary. I think they will go back to 2 main idols, and I think they will both be boys. I think one of the boys will be a kind of prep archetype character, and the other one is gonna be emo, which is gonna be great. The Squid Sisters will take a backseat in the story in favor of Deep Cut, but I could see them coming back in the last half. Maybe to save the day or something. Off the Hook will be relegated to DLC content again, and Agent 4 will still be missing, much to everyone's disappointment. Pokemon Legends ZA will come out in 2025 on both the Switch and Switch 2, but I think it'll be after the launch window. I don't have much to predict for Legends ZA. I think it will take place primarily in Lumiose City, and a lot of the different areas will be different districts in Lumiose City. And I think instead of an emphasis on catching Pokemon, there's going to be an emphasis on battling. I think we're also going to get a Monolith game. I will be so real. I don't really play Xenoblade. The games seem great. The soundtrack sounds phenomenal, but I just don't really have the time to get through another 100+ hour RPG right now, so I can't really say what the game will be like, but I think we're definitely getting one. If it's not 2025, I think it'll be 2026. Now, I said 3 games, but one more as a treat. One more game prediction for 2026 before I go. A new Donkey Kong Country. It'll happen. I can feel it. We're very, very close. And I think it's gonna be right around the 1-year mark of the Switch 2 coming out. That's what I think. I already covered what I hope for in my ultimate Nintendo wish list video. What I think we're gonna get I feel like it'll be something kind of more along the lines of Tropical Freeze. We're gonna have a original enemy, and you know, it's just gonna be kind of normal hijinks and things like that. I think it'll still be Retro Studios. I think that they will pop out Metroid Prime 4, and I think they've been working on a Donkey Kong Country secretly. That is my prediction. It's a wild one, but I'm gonna predict it anyways because I feel like it could maybe happen, and I'm feeling a little bold today. That just about does it for this very rapid-fire, quick video that I hope to get out before Thursday. I do want to make one final prediction, however, and it's not for games, but for the Switch 2 itself. I predict the Switch 2 will come out in May. Don't ask me why. I just have the feeling that it's gonna be late May. We'll see if I'm right. Whew, what a week it's been. I didn't really think that my previous video would somehow manifest the Switch 2 probably being announced this week. I wrote this script on Monday right after the rumors really started circulating, and I plan to record shortly, so by the time I wake up tomorrow to edit, parts of this video could already be obsolete. We love to see it. But what about you? Do you have any predictions for the Switch 2 reveal? Do you have any games you're hoping for? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more dragon yelling about video games and accidentally manifesting major announcements. Bye!